Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha.
All right, good to be with everyone. Yeah, good. Full house here where everybody's got a chair, seat. All right, good. Well, we are in the midst of unpacking the six perfections, which is really the Bodhisattva path, the path to complete enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. And in that refuge prayer, we just stated them. Generosity, ethics, patience, joyous effort, concentration, and wisdom. And the beauty, I think, of these six perfections on its highest level, practice with this motivation to be on a path to relieve suffering of all beings, it is this bodhisattva path. But we also find that it's going to help us in this very worldly, journey of a human being that we're in. That it's going to be the antidotes to a lot of regular afflictions. Generosity allows us to not be so attached, that we're connected to being of benefit to others. And the more ethical we are, the more at peace we are in our own hearts and minds. We don't have much to hide or worry about. Our sense of self-worth it increases when I have, nothing to hide. And so as I engage in more ethical behavior, that creates conditions for me to progress. It helps me meditate. My meditation's better. My way of interacting with others is better. Patience. Patience foundational for all of this. Yeah, patience, I think, is really the ground. And sit there and think about the ability to be uncomfortable. I mean, really, patient, the ability to be uncomfortable. That's quite a thing this day and age, because we don't have to be uncomfortable, man. There's so much that can distract us at any given moment, or something to alleviate my discomfort, distraction, other things. Yeah, we got a heating pad for the bed, man. Yeah, it's pretty cushy. Laura and I look at each other, and we go, man, we're soft. We used to be hard, man. It used to be hard. And so we have these capacity to not be, to be uncomfortable. And the actual path to balance in our lives, the path to well-being, the path to a sense of worth and value requires discomfort, just on a biological level, with our mind and the balance of dopamine and serotonin and so forth, that different neurotransmitters. Hanging out in pleasure creates discomfort, because when we don't have it, we're just uncomfortable. And so this balance, like exercise, for example, doing something difficult, and then it gets better, we're much more balanced. So we really need this balance of ability to seek out discomfort, to be bored for a little while, then we get creative. If I'm not bored, I don't get very creative usually. I'm distracted. So the ability to sit with some discomfort, to um, allow some space for things that are a little challenging, difficult, then we actually get some self-worth because we do things. So really important. And then with patience, we're capable of enduring, right? Because most things that are meaningful require effort. And as I've talked about many times, we're being robbed of our effort, all the time, being robbed of our effort. I mean, what do you need to do that's effortful? Copy and paste, man, I don't need to type. Voice to text, man. AI can write it for me, probably, cars that we drive. I remember manual steering. Old truck, man, cranking that wheel. Yeah. Now we have sort of auto correct. Now we got the sensors on the car. You get a little closer, it hits the brake if you're getting too close. Don't have to think much, don't have to pay attention to much. Yeah. So this opportunity for us to develop like some joy that I get to do something that's challenging. Wow, that's pretty cool. I get to create something. I get to work at something. I get to make something. Or, man, I have to do that two-factor verification in another button. Yeah. Uh, so patience and the ability to be uncomfortable, to work at something, to develop something. And then joyous effort, which is what we talked about last week, that joyous effort. And that really, to me, though, we talked about three kinds of laziness, but the biggest antidote is being interested in what you're doing. If I'm interested in what I'm doing, it's not very effortful. It's just not. Right? The things that we like doing, we'll do it for a long time. Don't want to do something? Oh man, doesn't matter how easy it is. You know, it'll wear you out. It'll wear you out. Even if it's simple, you know, go rake the yard. It's not that hard. I don't want to rake the yard. Yeah, I got other things to do. Just the resistance. But if I'm interested, well, it's my yard. I get to have a yard. It's nice to have a raked yard. It could be a spiritual practice. I can be mindful of how I'm raking the yard. I can wonder why that one leaf just doesn't get in that rake. I'm curious about that. Even though I keep hitting it. But being in with that, engaged in what I'm doing, then what I'm doing, if I know why I'm doing it, what's meaningful about it, what's it add to my life, or what can I be curious about with it, then the effort, is doable. We have a lot of. It's interesting, I've noticed where I get tired. I think I'm tired. I was tired a little while ago. I was sitting at the desk. I didn't want to be filling out that insurance application form. I'm just telling you. And staring at a computer. And but people start coming in. We have a Dharma talk coming. All of a sudden, I'm not tired. I was perking up. Well, because now I'm interested. There's engagement. So even the idea that we're tired, we're really maybe not tired. We just don't have anything interesting at the moment. As soon as somebody gives you some news, how about we do this? Well, I'm suddenly not so tired. So it's interesting to pay attention to our body. Our body lies to us quite often. And then other times it's screaming at us and we're not listening. It's trying to tell us that we're not listening. Other times it's telling I'm tired, I'm this or I'm that. And you start to think about, I'm really not that tired. I'm just not that interested. And so having this balance in terms of the ability to be more attentive to this incredible life that we have that comes, this day is only once. And have this joyous effort that I get to engage in a day. I'm creating my future right now. I am actually creating the person I'm becoming right now. To me, that's kind of interesting. I can be watering the seeds of a lazy, slothful, self-centered individual. I was very good at that. And but I could also be watering the seeds and nurturing potential of someone who's kind, open-hearted, interested, curious. I'm watering the seeds of the person I'm becoming right now. Then it becomes kind of interesting to do some things. So joyous effort, is if I'm interested in what I'm doing, I think that's one of the biggest antidotes to laziness and a way to engage in life. We covered the three lazinesses last week: procrastination, laziness of busyness, and then the laziness of doubt. Just feeling like I can't do it. Other people can, not me. Which brings us now to perfection of concentration, the ability to be present, to concentrate, to not lose my attention. And that's where we're at in the book. So let's pop that up. All you do is find the button. I'm good at pushing them. I just need to find them first. This whole Zoom format's changed. I'm feeling confident and optimistic. We can do this. Maybe. Oh, there we go. All right. The perfection of concentration. Some Lamrim texts, such as Lama Tsongkhapa's great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, which is really one of the main texts that we've been unpacking, devote hundreds of pages to the last two of the six perfections, the perfections of concentration and wisdom. Although every topic in Lamrim is essential for attainment of enlightenment, these two are particularly important. We need the ability to concentrate our mind on a chosen object and keep it there unwaveringly for long periods of time, so we can analyze and develop the wisdom that clears away the misconceptions about that object and realizes its true nature. In particular, the wisdom that directly realizes the ultimate nature of things, the emptiness of inherent existence, is the key that unlocks the door to freedom from samsara. So it's indispensable. So it is an indispensable aspect of the path to both liberation and enlightenment. Gaining intellectual knowledge of the last two perfections, it's not that difficult. It's not very difficult. But actually cultivating those realizations in our minds is challenging and requires detailed instructions. We were having a little discussion just before the talk is, the fundamental thing, wisdom. That's what frees us, truth. What's the nature of things? How do I exist? What's the ultimate nature of reality? And, we could talk about that philosophically. It's pretty interesting. We can have that whole talk about what makes this a cup. Right? Had that talk a few times. Anybody know what makes this a cup? Is it a cup or is it a mug? Yeah. You're saying it looks like a mug. Some people call this a mug. Yeah, when I was one of my cheap ways of buying souvenirs is when I travel instead of buying a souvenir when you're traveling. Go to a souvenir shop and they always have mugs, right? But they're little Port Angeles or whatever. I'd take a picture of me holding a mug and I'd say mug shots. And then I had a memory. I didn't have to buy the mug because we don't need another mug at home. And but when you sit there and you break it all down, and is it the fact that it's round and cylinder that makes it a mug, or is it a cup? Is it the size, or which size? Where's the differentiation between a cup and a mug? And is it the handle? Some have handles, some don't have handles. You start taking down the fact of what makes it a mug. Is it the material? Well, of course, it could be plastic, it could be a different material, it could be a lot of things. And handle or no handle, and you start finding that there's nothing really inherently. It's a mug around this, right? I could be putting flowers in it and it's doing something else and it breaks apart. And is it a broken mug or is it just broken ceramics? And when you get down to the end of the day here, the only thing that really makes that a mug is you and I label it a mug or a cup. Cup, mug is an idea. that we place on this. Used for other things could be called different things, but so there's no inherent mug there. There's just something I use with a label called mug that allows me to drink some water. And I'm going to say it's half full. So, so when we start to understand, just the world that we're living in, and not seeing things, just with these labels, and because we put labels on everything, and then we think that's what it is. We understand that, a cat does not see a mug. I'm curious what a cat does see. Very curious about that. And so how we're all experiencing this world in this very subjective way, and some people's different labels, different languages, different cultures use things differently. We experience things differently. So this wisdom is really about unpacking reality, understanding that we are always seeing and experiencing these things through our own projection, our own labels, our own conditioning. And so we can have that discussion about whether it's a cup or a mug is not going to help us attain enlightenment, I don't think, much. It's an interesting conversation, maybe. But how does that help you in life? And so the realization and starting to understand that how I'm experiencing things and understanding how I perceive them and the conditions that ripen, well, that matters. When I label someone a jerk and I start to recognize that that person is not inherently a jerk, like that matters. When I have a realization that there are no jerks in the world. Like that's a shift. There's someone I'm experiencing as a jerk that somebody else likes. And then even if I'm experiencing him as a jerk, they're also doing a lot of things all day long that are not jerky, right? Yeah, they're doing all kinds of things. Yeah, just walking down the street, not too bad. But as soon as I stick a label on, that's how I see someone. And then around them, I'm uncomfortable. And I think it's from them. And I don't realize it's from how I'm thinking about them or experiencing them. And I'm not attending to anything about them that is not a jerk. I'm only attending to the jerk part. So I keep looking in the wrong places for how I'm feeling negatively towards people and experiences and things, as though it's from their side, when part of it is, but part of it's my side. And if I shift my side, I start experiencing different. So these things become very practical, because then we start shifting around true causes of my well-being and true causes of my suffering. And by the way, they're never out there. Causes of my pain could be out there, hit me in the face, that would be painful. Maybe. I have much of a punch, maybe it wouldn't be that painful. But generally, though. Uh, so pain happens, right? But the suffering, the mental, emotional suffering that arises has a lot to do with whether or not, how I relate to that pain. But so much of our mental and emotional afflictions, resentment, anger, ill will, depression, and all that, those are all the primary cause within. And what's outside is triggering them. So if I start changing this, then there's less triggers out there. And we were at a meeting last night, and it was that really wonderful teaching. The world's filled with thorns, right? The world's filled with thorns, and difficult places that are sharp and hard. And you can't cover the world with leather, make it all smooth, but you can cover your feet with leather and go anywhere. And it's like that. As we become more capable, we're not going to be as effective. So this wisdom becomes really critical, but in order to access this wisdom, we need to be able to pay attention, because most of what I just said, you may not remember tomorrow, 10 a.m. You might actually think somebody's a jerk tomorrow. It's possible. Or that they're annoying. Instead of just knowing I'm experiencing them as annoying. But wow, what if I could remember that? That's very different. If I can remember that, if I can. So mindfulness is not just present in the moment. It's a state of non-forgetfulness, a state of non-forgetfulness. I can bear in mind. I don't lose what I'm attending to. I don't forget. A state of non-forgetfulness. So when you start combining these methods of effort, concentration, conjoining them with wisdom, so that we can, when we're mindful of our wisdom. We're mindful of the vipassana, the insights that I'm getting. I don't lose that as my emotions come and go. I don't attach to them. I experience them, which requires both patience, effort, concentration, right? The ability to feel and experience emotions that are difficult or challenging, and not just chase the ones that feel good. So they all really work together. But when we can develop the good conditions out of generosity, our ethical behavior that creates this peace of mind, stability, engage in virtue, and start feeling more comfortable with ourselves, we develop our concentration, our attention. We put forth the effort to be mindful, maintain that, develop that skill. And then we can actually maintain and act upon the wisdom that we've been discovering. And then it moves from an intellectual conversation to a reality in our hearts and minds. We develop Dharma. We have some realizations of Dharma. We start to notice, I was so worked up about this at 10 o'clock, and now it's 12 o'clock and it's no big deal. And it's nice to remember that, because 10 o'clock's going to come again. I'm going to be all worked up sometime and I think it's a big deal. But if I mindfully experience the arisal of difficulty, ill will, frustration, and I notice it dissipate, and then I notice that, oh, I'm okay. And you notice that, then you start realizing these thoughts, feelings, and emotions are temporary. I don't have to be caught up in them when I'm in them. They're waves on an ocean, but I'm the ocean, not just the waves. They'll come, they'll go. And then we have stability, which is very different than just, learning about it. So the opportunity to really bear it in mind, that's where this concentration is just critical. So I can pay attention during these moments of opportunities to learn. All right. Would I get 2 whole paragraphs in there? Let's see. So the Lamrim texts explain the perfection of concentration by giving instructions on the cultivation of calm abiding. That's a shamatha practice. Calm abiding, also translated as serenity or mental quiescence. It's a special type of concentration that allows one to keep the mind single-pointedly focused on a meditation object as long as one wishes, even for hours or days, free of obstacles such as distraction, restlessness, and laxity. It is accompanied by bliss and pliancy in both body and mind. Understandably, it takes quite a bit of time and energy to reach such a high level of concentration, but any effort we make in that direction is worthwhile. Calm abiding is an essential quality on the spiritual path because we need powerful concentration to attain the realizations that enable our mind to gradually transform into an enlightened mind. Cultivating concentration with bodhicitta, great compassion. Motivation is the perfection of concentration. So shamatha, so that's what we did at the start. That's shamatha practice. We grounded, relaxed, then we focused. And so developing this practice just in our day-to-day, even for short periods of time, will empower you to have more opportunity to have a little choice in your life, to have that little gap between an impulse and a reaction consistently, daily, every day, even for shorter periods of time, makes a huge difference. If someone and what they're talking about is going to achieve shamatha, that's where up at Center for Contemplative Research up in Crestone, Mio something Ling, there's people in a cabin right now. It's been a year or two, maybe more, developing that shamatha. You got a nice little cabin, very few distractions, nice environment, good teacher, and they're going through all 9 levels. And at some point, when you achieve shamatha, your attention is always available. It's always on. Hold it there. Nothing can distract you. It's on demand. Yeah. So that takes a little bit of effort. But just in our daily lives, doing this a little while. Somebody has, you get past, there's a sort of so there's some research on this too. Like I started with 10 minutes a day, back in 1999, just 10 minutes a day. And that made a huge difference in my life, 10 minutes a day. Then if I did 10 minutes a few times a day, it just kept, really shifted my ability to have more choice in my life. But if, someone were to start with that, but once you get past 20, we get to 24-minute sessions, Gattaca sessions. And you do that on a regular basis. The research shows it can offset the damage that's done through all the multitasking that we engage in a day. So there's a real significant difference once you get past 20, get in it. We teach, if you're interested, we have a meditation course. So we do 24 minutes of meditation. So I'll post that in the link. And just that every day, huge, huge difference. And then if you can do a couple, that's even better. But the key is always to remember our practice isn't merely that. Our practice is how we engage with each other. How am I engaging with you? I see other people as valuable. Am I understanding my experience with you? And yeah, that lays the groundwork so that our shamatha practice will work so much better. What I'm doing off the cushion enhances what I'm doing on the cushion. What I'm doing off the cushion takes away from what I'm doing on a cushion if I'm engaged in a lot of unwholesome behavior. And then I try to meditate, and my mind's not. But when I'm doing, kinder things and showing up in a better way, my meditation's better. So the foundation of all spiritual growth is always virtue. Always virtue. All right. So knowing the benefits of calm mind will inspire us to begin practicing it. These benefits include the following. We can more easily keep our mind focused on virtue. So avoiding non-virtuous objects and activities. In this way, we can use our life skillfully to create the causes of happiness and spiritual growth and to benefit others. So if I am able to be aware of what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, what's the future John I'm creating? What am I doing? Am I watering, just my desires and cravings, or am I not having the second piece of cherry pie? I was actually thinking that chocolate mousse cup, but but having some conscious choice in life about what I'm doing instead of chasing things and not being as reactive. Calm abiding is vital for attaining the insight that knows the reality of emptiness, which enables us to cut the root of samsara and attain liberation and enlightenment. So it's this essential quality. We can have these insights, right? We can have a real incredible experience, non-dual sort of experience, and realize we're much more than this body. People do that all the time. And then it comes and goes. And then I'm just me again. And nothing's really changed other than I had this great experience. I've had people call me and they had this experience and they're like, wow, I reckon I'm much more than this known thing. And what do I do with that? Well, you practice, man, because it's not ever, it doesn't happen again like that. You engage in virtue, you open your heart, you continue your practice. Is what happens to a lot of people. It just becomes this great memory. I mean, I have a lot of people say, back in 1977, had this amazing thing. I mean, I know there's so much more. But, they're intermittent. It's happened, 20 years ago, and they know there's so much more. And, you know, how do I get back to that? Well, have you tried meditating? No. Have I, it, we're not, unless we shift how we live, unless we shift and train to be more present, to engage in cultivating these qualities of virtue and attention and mindfulness. That we can have fleeting moments of nice things that you can remember back in 1979. Of course, some of you weren't born then. Some of us were around. I graduated in 1980. Anybody else class 80 around? Kimberly, class 80? All right. That's right. Uh, so the point being made here is that these get developed with consistency, right? And in order to have that consistency, that's where that joyous effort comes in, and noting the progress, noting how much better I am today than I used to be, noting the progress, thinking about where I am today and that there's 9 levels to go through Shamatha and be able to sit, for 4 days without losing your attention. That might seem pretty far away. And like, then, that's who's going to do that. But if I meditate for, every day and I notice I'm less reactive, I have more choice in my life. I'm not caught up in my emotions like I used to be. I'm more engaged. I'm actually enjoying doing the dishes. Like, wow, it's different, right? Very different. I notice that when I'm experiencing being annoyed, I don't try to change that other person. I kind of look at me. I'm curious about what's annoyed. That becomes very helpful. So these are the things that keep us moving on a path, and then consistency. I have to find that share button again. Well, have to is a strong word. I would like to. Yeah, there it is. What's the other benefit here? Even in our present life, we will experience greater happiness because calm abiding brings mental joy and physical bliss. Yeah, so the qualities of shamatha is blissful, luminous, non-conceptual. It's just feels good, you know. And just basic research has shown that the biggest determinant factor to one's sense of happiness is simply knowing what you're doing. If you're attending to what you are doing, you're happier. Doesn't matter what you're doing. And if you think about it, if you're attending to what you're doing, you know what you're not doing? Worrying, being frustrated, projecting about the future, like all of those other things, future tripping, planning, frustrating, ruminating. You're not doing any of that when you're focused on what you're doing. Just attending to what you're doing, you're focused on that. And so you don't have a lot of these other things. So just attention itself, attending to what we're doing. But even when we're attending to it, how many times are we attending to getting it done so I can go do what I really want to do? Now I'm no longer attending to this. Rather, this is important. That's why I'm doing it. This is the most important thing for me to be doing. It's a lot happier, just so much more engagement that way. So, they give you some benefits of this. And then it says, a person who is serious about attaining calm mind should receive teaching, study texts, find a suitable environment, lifestyle in which to practice. The ideal lifestyle includes keeping pure ethical conduct, avoiding activities that interfere with meditation, reducing one's desires, and being content to live simply. So that's someone who's like really going after it. So that's the place I described up at our teacher center up in Crestone, right? They don't even shop. They leave a little list, and then Aaron goes and shops for them, and puts it in the box. And it's just self-contained, really simple. My focus is this. This is what I'm doing. The Lamrim texts and other books contain detailed instructions on obstacles to calm abiding and their antidotes, the 9 stages one passes through on the way to full attainment of calm abiding, and the mental forces that enable us to attain those. Even if you are not able to dedicate yourself full time to cultivating calm abiding, you can start practicing. Start practicing on a daily basis with one or more short sessions of meditation. Doing so will bring many benefits, such as calmer mind, improved concentration. The meditation here provides simple instructions to get you started. And that's the thing is, we can improve our life right now and huge impact actually rather quickly. You start meditating every day, in 30 days, you're going to start notice a difference, a real difference how you're paying attention. A lot of people out here, they had a good practice, life is easy and good. Actually, someone shared it with me the other day, and then their life got busy. Matter of fact, started working from home, and they said his desk was near his bed. So instead of getting up and meditating, he got up and started working. And then he just listed all these things that came up in his life. Then he started talking about how frustrated, how different. He even got in a physical fight, just everything. And then he was talking to his mentors, sponsor actually. Mentor said, "Well, how's that prayer meditation in the morning going?" Gee, I stopped doing that. And he started doing it again. So he was sharing that in just a week's time, he's able to deal with all those things on a very different level. So what happens is, we really can have an impact very quickly in how we engage in the world. But we don't want to have an unrealistic view of if I'm going to meditate every day, I'm going to be this great meditator and I'm going to get in the zone and, nobody's going to faze me. I know it's, all from my side, no big deal. I'm like Yoda, man. Uh, you may find that, that would be unrealistic because Yoda is not a real figure, for one. Uh, but um, but it's really about building resiliency, patience, and the capacity to make a choice. And And every time that your mind jumps up with a complaint, I don't want to do this or so and so, and you choose to do something different, that's free will. You get to create free will in your own life. And that's what I find very exciting about just a very short 24-minute practice every day is you will find you'll have more free will in your life. You'll have more capacity to choose to do something you feel good about, even when your mind and body is screaming at you to do something else. And you just go, it's going to come and go. I'm still going to do this. And other times you'll go with the screaming body, but more often you'll have a choice. And sometimes you'll be able to act on the choice. And those are the little bits where we get traction. And we discover we have that capacity. And these are things I think that are important to sustain us in our practice. I just spent some time not long ago, recording a 28-day meditation training, and what I did differently this time was every time we sat to meditate, I'd take a few minutes and say, "Why are we meditating? What's the point? How's this helpful?" This is an opportunity to develop some free will, the ability to cultivate a choice in my life, the ability, and just spend a few minutes with that before we meditated every time. And it had a completely different impact on people who meditate because it wasn't something I'm just sitting down to do, because I know it's healthy or well, or I can look like that person in the picture at the beach. And they look so serene. But rather, every time we'd start with, why are we doing this? How is this helpful? What's this practice designed to do? What's it like to have some free will, some choice, the ability to engage in life more mindfully? And then at the end of each meditation, we would stop and ask ourselves, was that a good use of my time? Was that a good use of my time? Was that valuable? And doing that through the 20 days, people did very different impact than the way we used to do it. Because it's bringing purpose and intention to the practice and then recognizing, asking that question afterward instead of, the bell went off. Maybe I feel good, maybe not so good. Maybe thank God it went off, or maybe I could have sat longer. All those things that can happen. To take a few moments and go, is that worth my time? Was it helpful? And generally answers, yeah, a little pat on the back. Nailed it. And then I'm inspired to do it again tomorrow. So you're going to see joyous effort in there. You're going to see patience in there, right? So these perfections, you're also going to see virtue in there because this empowers you to be more virtuous and not as reactive, right? To be mindful of my choices. So these perfections, they just keep weaving into each other. They're not linear. It's not I get generous and then I become ethical and then I develop patience. It's no, I put in some effort. I'm work with generosity. I cultivate virtue, and then that helps me meditate. And the more I meditate, the better I am at being virtuous and patient. And the more I can bring some wisdom and understand the causes of my suffering, the causes of my happiness, and I'm mindful of that. Now I can be mindful of what's happening, and then I can act more skillfully with thoughts and emotions as they arise. And so they all really work in combination, in harmony with each other. But if I'm not paying attention, none of that really helps much. And there's a lot of time not paying attention. Laura pointed that out to me the other day. Today, I think, was it? Yesterday, maybe. What did you say? Mr. Mindful is not so mindful. Uh, about spicy bean burgers. Spicy is the key word there. Yeah. So that wasn't on the list. Yeah. So, yeah. In all my defense is right next to the grillers I was trying to buy. So, so we have to be present and read labels and pay attention to what we're doing. Yeah. Might be a good place to pause. Just checking in, see if anyone has any questions. I almost went on the whole chickpeas, garbanzo beans thing.
I had a question.
Yeah.
Yes. It was saying in the instruction that cultivating our compassion, cultivating our wisdom, is that why one would face challenges in their life to help them cultivate, to have resiliency to uh, the circumstances?
Yeah. Good point. The Katsuma Tenzabal, she's very good at pointing out just that point that you're making. Adversity in our lives help us. Well, first, when we see suffering, that's going to allow compassion, right? So no suffering, very difficult to have compassion. Compassion arises to remove suffering. So how are we going to cultivate compassion without suffering? So that's very helpful in that sense. Adversity helps us understand ourselves, seek an answer, right? I don't think I've ever met anyone in a Dharma room that got here because their life was peachy keen. Am I dating myself peachy keen? Anybody using that? That means like going well for those of you in a new generation. Right? We get here because we've been looking, right? We've been struggling. There's got to be something here to make sense out of all this. So we're seeking wisdom. So adversity is going to give rise to compassion, to wisdom. And those are the two wings for enlightenment, that you need, like a bird, you need compassion and wisdom for enlightenment. Just wisdom, not so good, just compassion. So that union of those two is how we wake up. And so seeing the suffering in the world, right? That's how the Buddha even saw it. He saw suffering and he said, is this necessary? Aging, sickness, death, is this necessary? And that was his quest to see if it was. His answer is it's not necessary. We're just confused. So that's also a good point that you make, is when our struggles are providing us the opportunity to grow. They're offering the opportunity for compassion, for wisdom, for effort, resiliency, discover, to seek. We'll put a lot of effort into not suffering. Yeah. You know what we won't put a lot of effort into is giving up our attachments. Yeah, I don't want to put a lot of effort there. I don't want to suffer, but I want to keep all this stuff, and these habits. I want to keep the causes of my suffering. I just don't want to suffer. My attachments, my desires, my stuff. Yeah. So with concentration in this practice, and is that we're going to be able to observe this, experience it mindfully, rather than be infused in those moments of suffering or attachment or the ups and downs. You might actually catch yourself when you say, I've had a long day. You might catch yourself and go, they're all 24 hours, man. Like, you might catch yourself, this day was terrible. And you go, well, is the day terrible or was it anything good today? The day's not terrible. Something happened to me I didn't like. A lot of people had a good day today. I had a lot of good things happen today. So with mindfulness, you start noticing even what we say that is just not according with reality and how we reinforce that. And then, yeah, that's a real shift if I can be mindful of that. Just the way we speak about things. Yeah. I'm experiencing some frustrations very different than I'm frustrated, and you're the cause of it. Yeah, that's a very different mindset. You are so annoying versus I'm experiencing annoyance. That's already a lot less suffering. So, in order to bring these teachings into our lives, that concentration needs to be present. And I'm not going to get more present and more mindful by getting caught up in distractions all the time. I'm going to need to have a regular practice every day to develop one thing specifically, attention. So that's why this practice is so important every day. It's giving you, it's one purpose, which is attention. It's not giving you enlightenment. It's not vipassana. It's not any of those things. It's the foundation that will allow you to get those other things because you can be present for them. You can attend to them. And when you do other meditation or other practices, they'll be able to saturate. We won't forget. They'll be realized because we were there. We were actually there, experiencing them fully. In this day and age, we have so many distractions. So, really important practice. Just take a peek at the text. I think that might just be a good place to pause. But maybe not. Yeah, because then we're going to get into how one might do that. Questions? All right. And then Ashley. Yep.
So kind of along those lines, in the meeting yesterday, you had mentioned we talked about optimism.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering, is optimism maybe a side effect or a result of concentration and cultivating, or is it a tool or a prerequisite necessary to use in your practice? Because sometimes it feels like it happens because of, this change that you're saying.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering, is it both, or is it just, a byproduct of living well and,
I'm going to go with both because if you think about optimism, there's a sense that you can do it, right? So very few people are going to sit and meditate every day. Because, how many times have you heard, my mind's too busy. I'm not a meditator. Man, I can't meditate, right? Hear that a lot. What I never hear is someone who sits down and meditates and says, man, I nailed that. That was easy, first time. But it's like, yeah, it's challenging. But optimism is, there's hope. When we look in the rooms, we see people have done things, people have improved their life, people have done that. So we have some optimism. So then we engage and then we get a little traction. And then it arises easier, right? It arises easier because now I have some direct experience. And then if we start noting, optimistically, we were at a different meeting last night is a point that was made is that you have survived every single event in your life. You have 100% success rate. Like that's pretty good, right? 100%. Like, Not sure you can do better than that, I don't think. And so that means that we have been able to rise to the challenge of every single thing that ever happened to us. And we're still in a room looking at how we can improve and be better people. Like, that's pretty awesome. Our hope's here, our humanity's here. Like, that's amazing. And so we can forget that easily. But if I bring it to mind every day, so can I bring to mind how far I've grown? Yeah, that's why with the meditation, this is meaningful. What am I doing that's healthy? Why is it healthy? Rather than I'm just doing a bunch of healthy things and it's just chores. I have to go to group, I have to meditate, I have to do the dishes, I have to, like I know they're good for me, but I'm not getting a reward out of it. We need to give ourselves a reward. Oh yeah, man, I nailed that. I nailed that. I was nice to that jerk, man. Like cool. Like, all these little bits we need to recognize what we're doing well. And then it kicks in more. And it becomes more natural. What we water grows. Right? Yeah. Ashley.
Yes, I was just kind of reflecting on the connection between concentration and what you were talking about last week with the laziness of busyness, and how the busier I am, the less I'm able to concentrate during meditation because I'm thinking about the to-do list or, this other thing that has to happen. And the more I kind of pare down those things, the more space there is and the more I'm able to that help kind of concentrate better during meditation and remember to bring my mind back when it wanders.
Yeah, it's a great observation. In the reading we were covering and the conditions for Shamatha, they mentioned simplicity. Which is what you're talking about, right? Yeah. And we can have fewer needs, fewer demands, simpler life. It will enhance our practice. That's really key. And so I remember distinctly Santa Barbara's a retreat from Alan Wallace and this discussion. And he pointed out so many people are seeking, what can I do to be happy? And he said, probably a more important question is, what can you not do to be happy? What can I not do to be happy? And that's been an important question in my life. What can I not do? What's keeping me from that? And that's, it's been very helpful. What can I not do? Because we tend to fill our lives up with a lot of habits that are actually preventing us from being happy. A lot of activities that are preventing us from being happy. A lot of things. So then, that's a great point that you make. And then can you turn the busyness into purposefully engaged activities and make them your meditation practice as you're doing them, which could be helpful. Yeah. But
I guess you talked about how like starting with 10 minutes a day is enough. And like I've been experimenting, but I'm curious what advice you have for like what a good baseline meditation practice is.
yeah. And so, those 3 steps that we talked about, taking time to ground, relax the body, and then, focus on something, focus on the breath. The next part of the section, we'll talk about a little bit about that. But when we talk about a baseline, are you talking about amount of time or what you're doing in the meditation? Yeah, that's what I thought. So the way that we evaluate a meditation, whether you had a good session or not, is did you follow the directions? It has nothing to do with how focused you were, whether your mind wandered a million times. or any of that. You'd never want to judge your meditation session by how busy your mind was or how focused you were, whether you had a great experience or whether it was unbearable to sit there. The way you judge a good practice is, did I follow the directions? So that means, let's say I was going to sit for 10 minutes. I set a timer for 10 minutes. Did you sit for 10 minutes? Okay. Were you in a good posture? Did you have a nice straight back? Were you comfortable? Good straight back, good posture. So you're in a good posture. You set your thing to sit for 10 minutes, and you took a few moments to ground, relax the body, and then you started focusing on the breath. When you notice your mind wander, the directions are simple. You notice your mind has wandered. Good, I'm mindful. I notice that. I'm going to let go and I'm going to come back. Mind wandered. Notice that. Come back. Mind wanders 1,000 times. You noticed it and you came back. And you sat until the bell went off. Perfect session. Doesn't matter. You were all focused and zenned out, or it was just, chaos going on. If you follow the directions, whether it's one way or the other, everything in between, and you realize that is a good session. How you evaluate your practice is you do that for 3 months. And 3 months later, are you more present? Are you more resilient? Are you able to experience emotions without reacting as much? Now you know it's working, right? But if you get caught up in chasing, certain levels and like that's a good practice, that's that, you don't get very far because you're always messing with your thing. Just follow directions. And personally, I have found that the sessions where I sit when I don't want to sit and my mind and body are screaming at me to do anything but this, and I sit anyway, I think those are the best practices because I'm letting my mind and body know, no, this is important, we're doing it. And I develop more patience, more resolve. Like I feel good that I sat for 24 minutes when 5 minutes of it felt excruciating, and I just sat anyway. Like that's good, yeah, because we're training the mind. Camera. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you had the microphone in your hand. Yeah, it did pass through you, right? Okay. Anything else? We'll kind of leave it there. We'll pick up with sort of these more specifics next week. All right. Well, let's go ahead and dedicate the merit and the wisdom that we have cultivated here. We took some time to engage, and some teachings have been passed down through centuries, been made available. And there's a lot of things we could have been doing on Wednesday night. We're cultivating the qualities to engage in our lives in ways that are meaningful, productive, helpful, compassionate. The world's a little better place because we're engaged in such activities as there are many others around the world as well. Could use all love and kindness and compassion it could get. So let us dedicate any and all merit and wisdom from this time together. For the benefit of all beings, may our efforts find their way into the world, nurturing the seeds of peace and care and compassion, healing. And may we also dedicate our collective efforts for our own continued spiritual growth, that we may water, nurture, and grow the qualities of compassion and wisdom within ourselves to liberate ourselves from the unnecessary afflictions of this human experience and recognize our ultimate nature so we can be of greatest benefit to all. And with that, those who'd care to can join in the refuge prayer. The dedication prayer. By this merit may I soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Om Tare Tu